Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be building a Notes app using React and TypeScript, which is perfect for beginners. Whether you're just starting out or looking to sharpen your skills, this project is packed with learning opportunities. We'll dive into the fundamentals of state management in React, explore powerful React hooks like useState and useEffect, and get hands-on experience with TypeScript along the way. By the end of this video, you'll have a fully functioning Notes app and a solid understanding of how to work with React and TypeScript together. We'll be implementing this project from scratch, so grab your coding gear and let's get started. So now I'll create a new project using pnpm and white. So I'll run this command pnpm create white. The project name will be / because I've already created a folder inside which I am making this project. So it will be /. It will be in React and I will be using TypeScript. Now I have to run pnpm install. Now I'll do pnpm run dev. As you can see, the project is now running on the browser. Next, we'll integrate Tailwind CSS with the project. Now we'll integrate Tailwind CSS, and for that we are in this page where the instructions are there. So first we have to install this. So I will copy this command and paste it in the VS Code. I'll stop the server, I'll paste the command, but since I'm using pnpm, I'll change that to pnpm. Now I'll run this command. Next, what we need to do is we need to import Tailwind CSS in white.config.ts file. So let's move there. So this is the white.config.ts file. I will import this and use this in the plugin. So what is the next step? Let's see. The next step is this import import Tailwind CSS in the CSS file, global CSS file. So let's do that. So the global CSS file is within src, that is index.css. I'll select all and delete, and here import Tailwind CSS. So that should complete the setup. Now I'll again run the app. So pnpm run dev. So in the browser you can see all the styles have vanished because we deleted all the styles from index.css. So let's see if our Tailwind is working. For that, what will we do is we will delete this css app.css file, and in app.tsx again I'll select all, remove, do this. Let's do an h1 saying hello world, and let's give it a Tailwind class name. Let's say text red 500 and a text of 5xl. Let's see if that is working. So as you can see in the browser, the text is larger and is red, so that means that our Tailwind classes are working. So let's move on to the next topic. So for this project, so let me show you. So as you can see, we are making kind of a calendar thing, and we are not gonna make this from scratch. So we are using a UI library. The UI library that we are using is shadcn. So we have to integrate shadcn into our project, and since we are using Tailwind version 4, as you can see, we are in the Tailwind version 4 tab of getting started. So I'll copy that command, paste it in the VS Code terminal. Let's run this command. So as you can see, there has been some errors. So the installation step is not complete just yet. We have to do something else also. We have to do some steps more. So let's go to the Brave. Now if I scroll down in this white tab, you can see there are a few steps we have to do. This is first we have to change make some changes in the tsconfig.json. I'll copy this compiler options, and then in our VS Code we'll also move to tsconfig.json and paste those compiler options. Same we have to do with tsconfig.app.json. You can see it's basically the same thing. So I'll again paste in the different file, which is tsconfig.app.json. Okay, so compiler options is already there, so I guess we'll just okay, let's see what's going on. So the compiler options are already there, so what we need to do is we'll just copy inside what is compiler options, so just this, and we'll paste it wherever, so like this. So that, I guess, okay, so the next step is making changes in whiteconfig.ts. So what I will do is I'll just copy this entire thing. I'll copy this entire thing and paste it in whiteconfig.ts. I'll select all and I'll paste. This should work now. Okay, now we'll do this. So basically we are going to add a button component and see if that works or not. Let's go to VS Code and let's see if this works or not. Let's select Y, neutral. Okay, now it's in installing the component. So as you can see, it created a components folder, inside it's a UI folder, and the button code is there. So let's try using this button and see if that works or not. In here below that I'll do button, this, click. Let's see how the button looks. I'll refresh. Okay, the server is not running actually, so let's do that first. So now we'll move to browser, and as you can see, the button does appear. So the first thing we'll make is the calendar. So for that, as you all again know, the calendar is coming from the UI library, so I have to install that first. So I'll open a new terminal like this and I'll paste a command, that one. Next we'll move to the browser and copy all this. So I'll copy this, I'll paste it here in the VS Code. Next, I'll copy all this and again paste it in the VS Code. Let's do this and this. Okay, so this needs to move up like that. I'll import that. We can remove this and this. So let's see how this looks. First of all, we'll move to the browser and we'll go to a project. So yeah, so this is the calendar. Now of course I'm going to make some changes, stylistic changes to fit our requirements. Let's do that. So now we'll make some changes to the code that we have already copied. So first we'll make changes to the class name. Here the class name will add is height of full, width of full, flex, items, center and justify of center. Next, this function will be changed a bit. So here will come selected day and then set date to new date of selected day dot get time. Now this calendar is inside the div. That div will get a class name of width 400 pixel and a height of 500 pixel. Okay, as you can see, the calendar is not fitting the size. As you can see, the border is very large while the main content of the calendar is shrunken. So next we'll fix that. Next we'll make some changes in the inbuilt styles for the calendar component. So for that we'll move inside the calendar and we'll not make changes everywhere, we'll just make changes in some places. So like this, in the months field we'll add a width of 500 pixel. Then in month we'll do width full. In head row it's just flex, but we'll do flex, and justify between, and in row we'll do width, oh no, it's there, in row we'll do justify between again, justify between. So that should do the trick. Let's move to the browser, and as you can see, the calendar looks much better. It's fitting to the size that we have decided. Next we'll implement a container component for the layout of our app. If you've seen my previous video, it's just the same component that I copy around. So I'll again do the same thing. I'll just copy that whole component. I'll make a new folder here, new file actually, called container.tsx, and I'll paste the code. So this is the same code for my every video, so you can check it out, my previous videos, if you want to know what this means. But as of now I've just copied the code, and now inside the app everything will be wrapped inside the container. So container, inside the container we'll have everything. Now if you move to the browser, you can see the calendar has moved a bit to the right. Basically it is abiding by the layout. Next, inside the container there will be a div with a class name of flex, item center, justify start gap x of 4 and relative. Then inside that div will be this whole div, so I'll move it up, and above this div will be an h1 with notes inside it. The class name here will be text of 5xl, font of semi bold, absolute, top of 0 and left of 0. Okay, let's see how this looks. Okay, so now this one, so this will get fixed when we implement other parts of the code. Let's do that only. Let's move to VS Code here. So after this div we'll have another div with the class name of relative, height of 630 pixel, width of full, flex, items, center, and justify of center. Inside the div will be another component called toolbar, which will implement later. For now it's just there, and inside that will come another div which will have a class name of flex, items, center, justify, start, gap of 4, flex, wrap. Again, the inside of this div will implement later. Here it will be the notes section, so we'll implement that later. So as you can see, when we have implemented those divs, the title moves on to its correct location, as you can see. So let's implement the toolbar next. Now we'll implement the toolbar. We'll not make a separate file for that component, we'll just implement it here. So const toolbar equal to a functional component, and will return a div for now. Okay, so what will this toolbar component take as props? The first will be date, second set notes, and third will be handle sort. The types of these will be, the date will be a date object. Okay, next set notes will be react dot dispatch of type react dot set state action of type note array. Again, we have not made this note type yet, but we'll do this a bit later. Next, handle sort will be again of the same type or not, it's a function. Order, which will be ascending or descending, and it will return nothing, so void. Now let's make this node type. So we'll define the node type above. We'll say type node equal to object, which will have an ID of string. Next, title of string, description which will be an optional of again type string, then date of type date, priority of either 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and is completed will be of type boolean. So this will be the note type. Now let's move on. First we'll define a use state here, const sort order set sort order equal to react dot use state of type either ascending or descending, and initially it will of course be ascending. Next, this div will have a class name of with full absolute inset x of 0, top of 0, border of 2, border slit of 200, rounded large, flex, item center, justify between, padding x of 6 and padding y of 1. Inside the div will be a create dialog component which will implement later. Date will be the date we receive here, we'll pass that on, and set notes will be again set notes, and there will also be a button. There will also be a button which will say sort. Variant will be outline, and on click, so what we want to happen when we click on the sort button? Well, we want it to sort the nodes. Handle sort with sort order, whichever sort order is selected, and we'll change the sort order after that. So let's say we sorted the nodes in ascending order this time. So what we want to happen when we press sort again the next time? The opposite, right? So if it's in ascending order, we want it to sort in descending order, and after it has been set in descending order, if you want to sort again, we'll sort in ascending order. So we'll do just that. So we'll say prev, basically previous state, then previous equal to ascending. If it is ascending, we want to set it to descending, else we want to set it to ascending. Nice. Now we'll implement the create dialog component. Next, we move on to the create dialog component. So again, I'll define it in this file itself. So const create dialog equal to a functional component again, and for now it will just return a div. What it will return, we'll come to it later, but let's just keep it like this for now. What it will take as props, it will take date and set notes. Date is of course a date type, and set notes will be this type. So I'll just copy this and paste it here. Cool. Now we'll again define a use state. So what will this use state be? This will be the new node that we are trying to create within this create dialog box, right? So const node set node equal to react.useState. It will be a type of node, of course, and initially it will be date will be whatever date we pass on, then priority will be 1, then title will be empty, then id will be generate unique id. This is a function which will write after this is completed will of course be false. Okay, now we will have an use effect here which will run whenever the date changes, and set note with prev, and we'll set the node to be exactly same as the previous node, just that date will be different. Okay, now we'll create this generate unique id function that will live inside utils.ts. I'll just paste the function. It's a very simple function. So it will return a string, of course, and we'll generate that string using crypto.random uuid function. So now we'll have to import this here. Okay, so that is done. Now we'll just create another function before we start implementing this return value. This will be const create node and if node dot title is still empty, that means we have not put in a node title yet, we cannot create the node, of course. So we'll just return if the node title is empty, we'll just return. Next, set nodes will be previous, and again we'll set the nodes to be dot previous. Actually it's an array, so it will be an array. Inside the array will be all the previous nodes with an added new one which is the current node, right? Next, after we have done this, we'll clear the current node as well. Set node to be, we'll just copy this, right? So that is done. Now we'll move on to implement the create dialog box itself. So the next thing we'll work on is implementing the dialog box. For that we need to install it from the UI library. So pnpm dlx @cn@canary add dialog. We'll run this command and it should, yeah, so that is done. Now in this return for the create dialog, we'll remove this and we'll write dialog, which will come from components UI dialog. Inside that we'll have a dialog trigger. We'll have a dialog trigger. It will receive as child first, and inside that will be a button saying create. Now this button will be of variant outline. Below dialog trigger will come dialog content. Inside dialog content, the first will be dialog header. Inside dialog header will come dialog title, and it will say create a new note. Below dialog title will come dialog description, which will have a class name of flex col and gap of y of 2. Inside dialog description we'll do label, and it will say title. Now we don't have this label component, so again as before we will install it. So instead of dialog we'll say label. Below the label will come input. Again same as before, input we don't have input, so we'll say input. We'll import this label and we'll import this input as well. Now input will receive value, which will be node dot title, and on change we'll say event, and we'll do set note previous. We'll set it to dot previous, just title will be dot target dot value. Okay, next same as like this, we'll copy this, will be description. So here it will say description. Again it will be node dot description, and also the description will be here. So that is done. Next will be priority. So a label saying priority. Now we'll implement the priority to not be an input. It will be a slider. Now that slider will also come from the UI library ShadCN. So let's download that slider like this. Now we'll say slider, and it will receive the attributes of default value of 1, value of node dot priority, on value change, set slider value. Now we have not implemented this function, we'll do that next. Again a max of 5, since we have only 5 priorities, and each step will increment at 1. So now let's implement this slider value function, or we can do that later. Let's just complete this first. Below the slider will come a dialog close. It will also receive as child, and inside that will be a button saying create, and on click it will receive the create node function that we wrote previously. So create node. So that is done. Let's just implement this and we'll be done. So let's move above, and below this create node let's create another function saying set slider value. It will receive v, which will be a number array, and we'll just set node. Basically we'll not set a node, we'll set the priority of that node, previous, and say dot 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 previous comma, we'll change the priority to be v of 0 equal to 0, then 1, else v of 0 as 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So this is our set slider value function completed. Now we'll use the toolbar here. So let's just uncomment this. Now toolbar will receive the props. So date will be date, then again it will be a exclamation mark here. Now set notes will be set notes. I guess that is not here, or what? Okay, we have not created a use state for set notes, we'll do that later. And the last one is handle sort will be handle sort. Again we have not created that function yet, so we'll do that next. We'll create these next. So now let's create the handle sort function. I'll copy this, I'll paste it here. So it's a const, paste that, equal to, it will receive an order. It will either be ascending or descending, and what we'll do is set filtered nodes to be previous. We'll do, what we'll do is dot 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 previous dot sort a comma b, and if order is equal to ascending, we'll sort them in ascending order. So a dot priority minus b dot priority, else we'll say we'll have to sort them in descending order. So it will be b dot priority minus a dot priority. So we are ascending, so we are sorting based on the priority of the nodes. Now let's do the state. So one state will be the absolute state. So nodes and set nodes equal to react dot use state node array. Initially let's say it's empty, and one more state will be there, const filtered nodes set filtered nodes equal to react dot use state, will again be a node array, and initially it will be nodes, whatever the global nodes value is. So we'll manipulate the nodes using the filtered nodes and will not touch the nodes. Okay, you'll see when we use filtered nodes what I mean, but let's just go with this for now. Okay, so everything is looking fine. Let's move to the browser and see what we get. So yeah, this is our app at the moment. We have implemented the calendar, the heading looks fine, and just now we created this toolbar. Now let's implement the notes display area or notes section here. Now we will be implementing the notes section. So for that I'll remove this, and what we'll do is filtered notes dot length is greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, then we'll show the nodes which are there in the filtered nodes. So filtered nodes dot map, and each node and index. For that we'll render a new component which is note card. Now this component will take in as prop handle delete, handle delete, key will be I, note will be the note itself, and handle completed will be handle completed. Now if it is not greater than 0, that means there is no note to show, so we can just return a div in that case saying make new notes. Now before implementing this component, let's just deal with these two functions first. So let's implement those first. So here we'll define those functions first. Const handle delete equal to, it will receive a note of type note, and it will set the notes previous, and it will set it to previous dot filter. We'll be filtering the item here. For each item we'll say item dot id not equal to node dot id. So basically what we are saying that return only those items that have whose id is not matching with the node id. The node that we are sending in the delete function, that's id should not be matching with any other id. We are sending those back. So essentially we are saving those and deleting only that one node. Next, const handle completed, this will receive a checked boolean and a node id. Here the function's name might say handle completed, but that does not mean we'll be using this function only when we are showing that a function that the node is completed or task is completed. It's like a on and off button. So this will handle with both showing that a task is completed, also reversing that outcome. Okay, remember that. So that's why we have this checked field that we are receiving. This will tell us whether the task is completed or not completed. If it is true, that means the task is completed, If it is false, that means the task is not completed. So set notes previous, we'll say previous dot map, and the note then if note dot id is equal to the id that we send into the function, then we'll return everything that the note has, just changing the is completed field to whatever the checked is, else we'll return the note itself. Okay, so these functions are done. Now we just need to implement the note card. So let's do that next. So for implementing the note card, we'll again be using another component of the UI library, that is a card. So we have to add that first. So pnpm dlx add cn @canary add card. This should do the job. Then we're going to make a new component. Let's just make it here, const note card equal to a functional component, and we'll return a div for now. Then in the props it will take a note handle delete function and handle completed function. The types of these will be note will be of type note, handle delete will be of type function that takes in a note and returns void, basically nothing, and handle completed will also be a function type boolean, and a note id of type string, again returning nothing. Okay, then what will be returning? Will be returning a card that we have added just now. So we'll be returning a card. The class name here will be, I've actually copied the class name, this one. We have to import the cn function. This cn function is written automatically by the cn library. We don't need to write that, we just need to import that. So it's very simple. It's basically saying it should have different colors based on priority. So like priority 5 will have a reddish color, priority 1 will have a green color. So you can either pause the video here and write it yourself, or you can move on to the GitHub and copy these class names. Next, inside the card, the first thing will be a card header. Inside the card header will be a card title saying node.title, and below that will be a card description which will have format note.date, and we need to format it in the specific manner. So DOMMM comma YYY. Okay, now again we need to import this format from datefns. So we'll import format from datefns library. Okay, next below card header will be a div which will have an on click function of handle delete. It will say handle delete, and we'll pass in the note. Inside the div, actually it will also have a class name, so write that. We should write that first. Class name width of 20 pixel, absolute, top of 4, right of 4. Inside the div will be an image saying /x.svg and an alt of delete. Here the class name will be width full and object contain. This image you can find in the GitHub again. You can download it from there. Next, now below the div will be card content. Inside the card content will be a p tag, and inside the p tag will be node dot description. Next will be card footer. This will get a class name of flex call items start and gap of y of 2. Inside the card footer will be a label saying completed, and below that will be a switch. Again, we do not have this component, so we'll add it later. The switch will get a okay, let's just add this first. We can import it here, and now we'll get a check of node dot is completed, and on checked change will be checked value, and will pass on to handle completed checked comma node dot id. So that is done. Now we are just left with the last part of the code. We just need to write a use effect so that the card actually shows up. Basically what we want to happen is that you can see that filtered nodes is set to this node, these nodes, right? Initially you can see here, but initially these nodes are also empty. As you can see, this is an empty array, but when we create a node, this will get changed, but filtered nodes won't know that, so filtered nodes will remain empty. So we need to change that, and we'll use effect for that. So we'll say react dot use effect, and we want to run this use effect whenever the nodes changes. If a node is deleted, it should be deleted from the filtered nodes as well. If a new node is added, it should be added to the filtered nodes as well. So we are doing that. Also, it should happen when the date changes. So basically what should ideally happen is when we change the date in the calendar, we select, let's say the 28 is selected, only the nodes that were created on 28 should be present in the 28 date, correct? If you move to 27, those same nodes should not appear, the nodes should be different. So this function will ensure that as well. So we'll say inside the use effect we'll say set filtered nodes to nodes dot filter note and will return note dot date dot to date string. This should be equal to date dot to date string. That means the current date that we are selected in the that is selected in the calendar should also match the date present in the notes in the current note. Only those notes will appear. That's what this function does. Now let's move on to the browser and see if it works or not. Okay, currently there are no notes, so in the screen it appears make new notes. So let's just do that. Make new note, title saying this is a test note, new note. You can change the priorities as 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We can choose whatever, but let's keep it here and create. As you can see, the note appears. Completed. That works. Now if we move on to 27, it should show make new note. That note should not appear, so the use effect will handle that. Again, when we create a new note here, note for 27, anything random, let's give the different priority, so that appears here. Nice. So I've created some random notes to show you the sort functionality. So if I press sort, it arranges in ascending order, so light green to red. If I press again, it will sort from red to green, that means in descending order. So this keeps on happening. Okay, also the delete function works. So if I press delete here, it will be deleted, and if I press delete, it will be deleted again and again. Okay, and just like that, we have reached the end of our journey together. This project may not have been the most visually stunning, but if you are a beginner, it was packed with valuable lessons: React fundamentals, TypeScript, state management, and more. Every project is a step forward, and this was another one in our learning journey. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more awesome coding content. Your support really helps the channel grow, and I'd love to hear what you'd like to see next. See you in the next one.